Hi guys, it's Blackie and welcome to the channel. Okay, today's Silver Wolves, I'm going to deal with something serious. And I need you to really pay attention, really listen and watch this video all the way to the end. Because I'm going to try to save your life is what I'm doing. Now, it's summertime, it's hot. And any of us can succumb to the heat. And we're going to talk about that. This is really important. I myself had heat exhaustion 2 weeks ago. And at the end of this video, I'll tell you the story how I got it and what steps I took and why I took those steps. But first, I want you to understand how the body works for just a second. Okay? The body uses the heart to pump the blood around the heart. This also pumps other fluids around the heart. But the body has to open and close valves, open and constrict blood vessels, capillaries, arteries to increase flow to some areas and restrict flows to the others. That's the reason in the winter, when we're very, very cold, the body will keep the warmth to the core for the head and the internal organs and sacrifice your hands and your feet because they can be sacrificed, so to speak. So it stops sending the blood out there as much. Yes, there is still blood circulation, but you're more likely to get frostbite in those areas and other areas like your tip of your nose as the body backs up further and further, turning off areas trying to keep that core temperature heat. Okay. It does the same idea, but in reverse when we're hot. Because the heart is pumping, trying to force this to open up. You notice how people, whenever they get hot, their face turns red, their arms and their hands turn red, maybe the top of their thighs turn red, and stuff like that. That's because the body is now taking the core blood and pulling it up to the surface to let the skin and the cheeks and everything act like a radiator and radiate out some of that core heat. It's betting that you're sweating and that sweat as you move is being cooled and dried and it's evaporating, thus taking away heat from the body. So we sweat profusely on our backs. Water running down our back, evaporating, cools the back, and that's a big place for us to send the blood to rotate back into the core because we're trying to cool the core off. See, we're trying to keep the brain cool, etc. And so we pull it in there and rotate it. The problem lies with us being silver wolves is as we get older and we become less active, those veins and capillaries and arteries and stuff don't open and close like they used to. They become kind of thick, kind of lazy. Now, coronary artery disease is a fancy word for it. There's also other $5 words, but in a nutshell, our plumbing's getting old. And because of that, it doesn't constrict as tightly as it used to. It doesn't cut off as well as it used to. And so consequently, the heart has to work much harder trying to get it to where it needs to go. Kind of like our transmission is getting a little weak and the engine has to rev higher trying to push it. Okay? That's where it's happening. And so we sweat, we get hot. But what happens whenever you are out here in this environment and it's cold? Well, you're radiating heat, right? But what happens when it's hot? Our body temperature is 98 degrees. Thereabout, everybody's a little different. My personal body temperature on average is 96.5. My wife's is 97.1 is her resting regular old body temperature. But we use the average of 98, okay? Well, let's assume that the air out here right now is 98 degrees. That means that the blood being brought up can't cool off because it's just as hot out here as it is in here. And add, what if the humidity is like 70-80%? Well, then whenever we sweat and the water gets on, that water's not evaporating. It's not drying. And it is the evaporation and the drying that gives us the cooling effect. So suddenly we're not evaporating and we're not drying. And it's trapping the heat. And so the heart starts pumping harder trying to do it and starts pulling water from wherever it can, trying to keep us sweating, trying to keep the system working. Okay? Now here are the symptoms of heat exhaustion. Okay, I want you to study these. Dizzy or faint. That means you feel that little bit of lightheaded. You know, sometimes when we stand up too quick, we feel a little bit lightheaded. Why? Blood pressure dropped in the head because we stood up too quick. But we can just be sitting there on the porch watching the grandkids play in the sandbox or whatever, or watching the wife do something in the garden or whatever, and suddenly you feel that little, you know, that's an indicator. You're hot. You're getting too hot. And the brain, in trying to force an open and close, just drop the pressure around your brain a little bit too much. Some people talk about I get sleepy when I get in the sun. That's a big uh-oh. That's because the body is dropping the pressure too much. See? Trying to open and close and move this stuff around to cool me. And you're sitting on the porch, you're sitting on a great big vinyl cushion. That ain't going to cool you, and the sweat's just rolling, and it's holding the heat and everything, so we can't put it to the back of the buttocks, the legs, and it's all got to be the head and the arms and stuff, and the body's trying to constrict and everything, trying to find a place to cool this off. And we're not helping them. So we feel a little faint. That's a big why. 2, nauseous. You feel a little bit of a, not, in the beginning it's not real bad, but you may feel a little bit upset stomach, not bad, like a little indigestion or something. Like you feel like, did I eat something wrong or whatever. That's the body sucking the water out of the stomach lining, the intestines, and everything else, because we need this water. We're losing water. I need water. You're not drinking enough. The average American stays right on the edge of dehydration. If your urine ain't clear, you ain't drinking enough. And the average person, especially the ladies, don't like to pee so much. So they don't drink enough. And so when I'm put into this situation, now the body's got nowhere to go to. There's no jug. You know, I don't feel thirsty, but I'm low on water. And so the body starts pulling it out of other organs. The stomach contents, the intestines, and stuff like that. That'll come back to haunt us in a minute. Headache. You get that little behind the eyes headache, like, what is this? You know, you start doing that squint like that, even though you may be in the shade, but you start doing the squint. You see them kind of draw the face up like a prune. It's because, again, we're pulling water out from around the brain. We're pulling water anywhere we can find it at that point. You know. Tight temples. That's another one. Everybody, you see people doing this. Feels like your hat band's too tight. You know, man, what's going on? You start seeing people do that. They wipe their forehead and whatever. They feel like a tight band around their forehead. Again, the body's blood pressure is going up because the heart's beating harder. And it's having to pull this water out, even out of the blood. So your blood is starting to get thick. Muscle cramps. The big muscles, like the back muscles, the leg muscles, the forearm, the hands start to cramp. Why? The body is pulling moisture out of there and it's cutting off blood to that. Because it ain't helping. It's hot and it's holding heat. And so you're sitting on that vinyl cushion on that chair where there ain't no airflow and it's just sitting there like a hot pad holding your body heat. The body turns off the blood flow to try to kind of cut that off a little bit, like there's too much heat coming here. And it starts running out of oxygen. That muscle starts cramping because it's running out of oxygen. High heart rate. This is key. You start getting that thump, thump, thump in your ears. Your temples start. You may feel a little jump in your neck. You may feel your armpit over here. The heart's going boom, 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 boom. And you ain't doing that. I'm just sitting here on the porch. It's pulling water out of your blood. It's that desperate for water. Your blood's getting thick. So now it makes it harder for it to push it and it coast around that roller coaster of your circulation system and come back. Now it's trying to force it through. My first heart attack was for this very reason. I was heat acclimated. I lived in a house that didn't have air conditioning. I was in my 20s. I had a car that didn't have air conditioning. And I did a very labor demanding job. So I was outdoors all day, every day in the heat, getting it done. And I didn't drink enough. And I was still just bulldog, and I just kept going. And I got the headache, I got the nausea, and I didn't care. I kept going. I'll stop. This job will be over in 2 hours, and then I'll be done for the day. And I kept pushing. And my blood got thick. And it caused the blood to start getting sticky to itself. The actual membrane of the cells started getting a little sticky like honey. And they went sticking together and started forming blood clots in my arteries and veins. And that caused me to have my first heart attack. My heart was pounding like crazy, and I had basically, the blood had got so thick going on the downstream where we're pushing it out, that it couldn't make the turn at the capillaries easy to come back. So it coming out the artery, and then it has to go through a capillary-like web to change into the vein to come back. Well, it had got there, and it's kind of like traffic jam. It's so thick, it ain't going through like it's supposed to. And so my hands felt like they were doing that. My feet felt like they were doing that. And I started getting real faint and dizzy. I started feeling like I was going to pass out. And so I got medical help. And when they got me into the ER and they realized something's wrong here, and they went to draw blood, they couldn't draw blood. They stuck me and I wouldn't bleed because my blood was so thick it wouldn't come through that little needle. They put 3 IVs on me running wide open trying to rehydrate me. So my first heart attack was because of severe dehydration. And I was in my 20s. So you see what I'm saying? This is life and death, guys. Understand these symptoms. High heart rate, that boom, boom, boom. You start feeling it in your hands and your feet like that, get water in you now. Vomit. You may throw up. Why? Because remember I talked about we pulling that water out of the stomach and the intestine and everything else. You're hot. Your poop's sitting there in your intestine, and now your poop is dry in there. And it kind of goes a little toxic. And the body goes, get rid of it. And so a lot of people, when they have heart attacks, they throw up. Because the body doesn't know what's wrong, but it's just throw all the garbage out and we'll start over. See? So you start feeling real nauseous. You may actually throw up. Confusion. You get to where you just can't keep the idea in your head, whatever you're trying to do. Because remember, we've dropped the water, everything. We're getting hot. Our brains are getting hot. We're starting to get like, what was I? Confusion. What were we doing? Brain fog. Same idea. It's like your brain's running 90 to nothing and you can't stop on any one thing. It's like a roulette wheel spinning around. And you go, okay, and you just keep changing topics. That's the brain reacting to too low water. This is your engine with a radiator light coming on going, dude, we are hitting the badlands here. Finally, seizures can occur. How the body reacts. Now, of course, heat exhaustion, if you go just a little bit farther, that's where this comes in. You got heat stroke. That's where things start breaking. So we're trying to keep it on that step before. Heat exhaustion. So again, dizzy or faint, nauseous, headache, tight temples, muscle cramps, high heart rate, feel like I'm going to throw up, confusion, brain fog, seizures. Okay? Why it is affecting us silver wolves even more is high risk of overheating. We're old and our system don't work as good anymore. And so our arteries and veins are not functioning like they did when we were 20. And so the body isn't able to shift around as easy to try to cool us. So that core temperature starts building up. See? Less ability to regulate our body temperature ties in with that. You get hot and you can't seem to cool off. Even though you realize, oh man, something's wrong. And I start drinking all the cold water I can get a hold of, and I'm still too hot. Yeah, it feels good and cold going down. Yeah, I'm getting water, but my core is still too hot. Pouring cold water in doesn't negate it. The engine, the body is just so hot at this point, it can't get it there. Your blood's got thick. It can't keep that cool from water form, because by the time it gets in your stomach and starts to absorb, now it's 95-degree water and it's trying to circulate that because you're so hot, you're heating up the water. See? Body fluids slow down. Again, with that constriction problem, we simply don't move around as fast in the circulation as we used to. It takes longer. So what was good cool water is now warmed up to lukewarm, if not body temperature, and it ain't helping to cool. It may hydrate, but it ain't cooling. And finally, meds that we take, like blood pressure and heart medicines, can make this a lot worse because it automatically has our heart rate lowered or increased, and our blood pressure may be high or real low, and the body's trying to say, look, I need high blood pressure. I got to force it through because we've got dehydrated and our blood's thick, and I got to force it through this loop. And this medicine's making it too low. And that's when you get sudden heart death. Where, like me, you get that hammer hand thing where you get too thick. You're not doing anything. You're sitting on the boat watching a cork. I mean, I'm not doing nothing. I don't know why. I'm just hot. And then they keel over with a heart attack. We've all known and heard of somebody that did that. Why did it happen? He wasn't in any discomfort. He said he was a little hot. That was it. Because the blood got thick. The heart's trying its best to do the job. And you've got medication in you that prevents it from doing the job. You can't constrict. You can't whatever. Boom, boom, boom. And we go down for the count. We have to be the one thinking about this. We can't let this chain of events start. We've got to be proactive to keep an eye on it. Okay? So again, for us silver wolves, high risk of overheating, less ability to regulate our heat, body fluids slow down, and meds, blood pressure, heart medicines, and other kinds can cripple us and enhance our ability to overheat and cripple our ability to cool off. So, what can we do about this? Now, let me tell you what I did 2 weeks ago when I got this. I overheated. My old Pathfinder, if you remember back in the spring, I cut the belt off of it because that pulley went out. Well, that runs my air conditioner. And I have, most of my life, never had a car that I kept an air conditioner on. I don't care about it. I prefer to run with the wind, even in the summertime. That's just me. And so my wife and I were going to be driving an hour and a half down to Panama City to meet some friends down there. So at about 12 o'clock, I came outside and did a few things I had to do in the heat. Then I cleaned up right quick, got in the vehicle, went and picked my wife up from work. We stopped and ate right quick. And that was around 2 o'clock. And then I ran to the restroom and I peed. That's important to the story. We then came out and got in the thing and we went on the 1.5 hour trip heading down there in the heat. Wind's blowing around me, but it's hot air. What was the heat index at that time? 109. 109. So we're automatically 10 degrees above my body temp. We rode to Panama City and I did not drink anything en route. Didn't need it. Didn't feel thirsty. we stop when we just first got to Panama City down there, and because, you know, if you're married, you know the wife's never seen a rest stop she didn't like. So we got to stop. So we stopped. She ran in to take care of nature's business, and she brought me out a can of soda. I chugged it in about 2 minutes. Then we went on and picked up the friends. We stayed in my vehicle, and we got in that bumper-to-bumper traffic where it took like 40 minutes to get to where we were going. Again, I'm sitting in the heat, now with no air moving around me. We got there, and I thought, good, we'll get here and we'll come inside and we'll be in air conditioner. Where we went to, we ended up outside on the cement sitting area in chairs in the slightest of shades. And so we sat there like 45 minutes in that heat. And then we're going to go eat. Great, we'll go to a restaurant. It will have air conditioning. No, this restaurant didn't. We're sitting out on a deck where you can see the water. There was no air conditioned part in this restaurant. It's all a deck in the sun. By luck, we got a place that was in the shade. And so we sat there for a couple hours and we talked and everything. And I'm drinking, I think I drank 2 glasses of tea while I was there. And I'd been sweating pretty heavily. But hey, you know, I'm drinking and I'm sweating. Then it was time to take friends home and come back home. So we got back, and after I had eaten, that's when I really started feeling this. I didn't feel it till I ate. But what have I done? I ate, and my body's now going, not only are you hot, not only are we trying to circulate around, now you're going to throw digestion in here where we have to suck fluid from somewhere else. Even though you drank 2 glasses of tea, it wasn't enough. And now we've got to sit there and do this, creating mechanical heat energy as the stomach muscle sits there and gets it ready to push into the, and oh, by the way, now the intestines got to lubricate. And we're going to suck water out of your system. And I quit sweating. I dried up, even though it was still hot. And so we get back into the car, and it's a 45-minute little to get back, said our goodbyes. Now the sun has just gone down. Yay, the sun is down. No, all this asphalt, all this stuff has now been heated for 14 hours, or 12 or 14 hour days in the blazing heat in the sun, and now it's going to radiate heat out. So the air was not cool. Even though you're no longer in the sun, it's actually hotter and muggier. And we started the 1.5-hour drive home. We stopped and I got something to drink. And I drank it. And again, did not start sweating. It's about 8:30 at night. We get home at right at 10. In that last 45 minutes, I knew I was in trouble. I was having confusion. I was having high heart rate. I was having muscle cramps, my intestines, and everything else. I knew I was in trouble. We stopped and I got liquid, and I went to drinking liquid. But it wasn't mattering because my core is now too dang hot. So we get home, and I know what you're going to, Blackie, you should have just jumped into a shower right quick. Remember that sudden death we talked about? I have a heart condition. So if I had immediately gone and got into a cool shower, yes, it would have felt wonderful, but what's the body going to do? I'm too hot, immediately blow as much blood to the surface as you can to cool it off. My heart rate would have shot through the roof. I'm already at about 135 beats a minute. I checked with my little thing. 135 beats a minute. You think something might pop? But I got to cool down. So I went and laid on the bed directly in front of our air conditioner, and I put a box fan right here at my head and turned it on high. Stripped off to everything but my underwear and just let the air flow over me. And for the next 1.5 hours, I lay there sipping liquids the whole time. You would take a drink and your stomach would cramp out because it's going water, water, and your stomach's cramping. If I had taken a big gulp, I'd have puked. So I had to take it in big swallow, wait 2 or 3 minutes. Big swallow, wait for the cramp to quit, etc. After about 45 minutes, the stomach cramps quit. So I knew I was starting to make headway. I was starting to turn it. After about an hour of it, I told the wife, okay, go get a cool rag. And she mopped down my back and my legs. I was hot to the touch. Hot, and I was clammy and hot to the touch. Like you'd been sweating, but you're not sweating right now. Had she grabbed a hold of me and I had been hot and dry, that's heat stroke. So I recognized what stage I was in. After midnight, I was finally cooled down enough and had enough liquids in me. I was able to get into a shower and finish cooling off and felt safe to do it. At 1:30 in the morning, as I'm sitting there, I finally had to go to the bathroom. I had to go pee. That's almost 12 hours later. And in that time, I had consumed 4 cans of soda, 2 large sweet teas, a quart of Gatorade, and 5 bottles of water. And I finally had to pee. And it was as orange as Gatorade. I had dehydrated, and I had been stupid because I did not pay attention to these warning signs. So, learn from Blackie. Do you have some sort of heart condition? Are you not active anymore where you're not doing some sort of exercise or some sort of activity that gets your heart rate over 100 beats per minute for at least 30 minutes 4 times a week? If you're not doing that, your system is not used to being, you're not working your system, and your arteries and veins are not used to opening and contracting anymore. So, less ability to regulate and body fluids are slow. Why did I go down there? I thought I'd be fine. I've been coming out, and I'll have air blowing on me coming in the window. We'll be sitting in a restaurant that'll have air conditioning. I'll have all I want to drink. Didn't happen. Because of that, I got in a bad way. I want you to never have to be that way. So, one last time to wrap it up. For silver wolves, remember, we have a higher risk of overheating. We have less ability to regulate our heat, warming or cooling. Body fluids are slower to move around. Meds like heart medicine and blood pressure medicines, cough medicines, congestive sinus medicines can all affect your blood rate and your blood pressure. The symptoms are, I feel dizzy or faint, nauseous, headache, tight temples, muscle cramps, stomach cramps, abdominal cramps, high heart rate. You're feeling that thump, thump, thump in your ear. You feel like you can't quite catch your breath because your heart rate's going like crazy and you're not breathing fast enough to match it. Confusion. You just seem to can't stay focused. Brain fog. Everything's running 90 miles an hour and you can't focus on one thing. Seizures is the last. Educate yourself. If you're going to be getting out and for a family function or whatever that's going to be in the heat, rule number 1, take as much cold water, cold towels as you can. Carry some wipes, like them baby wipes, that, or a rag that I can wet and I can wipe my face. Remember in all the old movies, the old black and white of the old woodsmen sitting there constantly, they got a bandana around their neck and they're constantly wiping their arms and everything. They're cooling themselves off. Because if I can wet that and get it, then I get an evaporation, right? I cool. One of my favorite things, gear to carry, and I've spoke about this many times, is that sniper veil made out of cotton, because I could dunk it and put it on my head, and this little bitty, like 1 or 2 mile an hour breeze right here, and you'll swear you're in air conditioning. It cools the head, it cools the blood, and you're breathing cool air to cool the lungs and the core. I should have carried that with me, shouldn't I? But Blackie, it'd look kind of stupid you coming in with your shirt soaked. I was going to be soaked with sweat anyway. Everybody around me is walking around soaked with sweat. Anyway, what's the difference? See? Don't stay out there so long. If you start feeling these symptoms, get out now. Get into the air conditioning. Get in the car and turn it on wide open, whatever you got to do. Drink plenty of liquids. Remind yourself, when was the last time you peed? And if it was 4, 5, 6 hours ago, you know you're low on water. Start hitting the water. Sodas and stuff don't count. You want water, okay? Even though I drank sodas and I drank sweet teas. I thought I was fairly hydrated when I started. Obviously I was not. And so, learn from Blackie. Take care of yourself. I want every one of you to make it through. Fall's coming. Hang in there. Fall's coming and we'll be able to go out camping again. Speaking of which, the Silver Wolves class is still going on first week of October. Down in the description box, I'll give you the link if you're wanting to sign up for the Silver Wolves class. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.